Hey guys, this is AP NSL Vocab Review for Unit 2, Political Socialization/Ideology, Political Parties, Interest Groups, all of which can be found in Chapters 11, 13, and 14 in your textbook. I'm going to be going through a lot of the key terms, but I will be skipping over some that I don't think are quite as important. But if the terms are in your packets, I do recommend you looking up all the definitions. Demographics. Graphs/polls that display public opinion. Census is just data collected every 10 years from Americans across the nation, and the data that is contained usually has to do with population data for House seats. Public opinion, what the public thinks about a particular issue or set of issues at any point in time. Political culture, commonly shared values, attitudes, and beliefs about how the government should operate. Polling, different types. Push polls are negative, tracking polls are like a horse race, public opinion polls, and straw polls. I'm not going into the definitions of those. I do recommend looking those up in your textbook, however. Political spectrum is just left or liberal, right or conservative, middle or moderate. Moderates are balanced between liberal and conservative, some liberal, some conservative views. It's usually a bit of a mixed bag, but it's not too far on either side of the spectrum. We have the gender gap in voting. Women vote the same or slightly more than men now, but that wasn't the case in previous generations when women didn't even have the right to vote. There's forms of conventional political participation. So participation that attempts to influence the political process through well-accepted and often moderate forms of persuasion, and then forms of unconventional political participation is participation to influence the political process through unusual or extreme measures such as protests, boycotts, or picketing. The forms of conventional ways is more like voting. Difference between political parties and interest groups. Interest groups influence Congress/parties. Parties actually are in Congress, and they're doing all the work. The interest groups are just trying to influence those parties. Voter canvassing. Campaigns getting in touch with voters through door-to-door solicitation or by the telephone. GOTV examples, or get out the vote. It's just a push. It's just a push at the end of a political campaign to encourage supporters to go to the polls and to vote. Party eras, times of weakness and strength. There was the Golden and Gilded Age, political machines and party bosses. There's the Progressive era, Republicans go right, Bull Moose Party, that sort of thing. That's what you should be looking at and studying for political eras. In critical elections, an election that signals a party realignment through voter polarization and new issues. Those can be important when everything shifts. You can see critical elections when you study party eras. Party realignment is a shifting of party coalition groupings in the electorate that remains in place for several elections. Coalitions are a group made up of interests and organizations that join forces for the purpose of electing public officials. Delegates are elected representatives. Superdelegates is a delegate slot to the Democratic Party's convention that is reserved for an elected party official. This is just for the Democratic Party. And superdelegates are they're special to the Democratic Party, and that's just for the convention. Minor and third party roles could potentially take votes away from one or both of the candidates running for either the Democratic or Republican parties. Third party candidates hardly ever win. They just take away votes from other candidates. And that's where I'm going to leave it here for Unit 2 vocabulary. I'll be continuing in another part the rest of Unit 2. Thank you for listening.